my Connect course. And so here you actually see the 10th edition. The 11th edition, like I said, is just about ready to be loaded up into Connect to be there in January, but it's not quite built yet. So I've put these assets, I was able to load them into our financial accounting book. So I'm going to go into there. But just to make it clear what I'm showing you today, and Jen's going to show you part of this as well. When we're talking about doing data analytics in Spiceland, all we're really saying is you just go to the assignment, and I won't go through the simple process, but I could pick any chapter and I can assign a brief exercise by picking there. Or just as easily in the chapter, I can go to a data analytics button and I could pick a data visualization or a dashboard or applying Tableau. I simply select it, add it to the homework. I can give it, I can come up here and I can assign it any number of points I want, like 7. I would give it a homework grade or a homework name. I'll just pick homework. I'm going to pick a due date. There's so many settings we could go through, and I won't waste time with that. And then I can just review it and assign it. And so I just assigned a data analytics problem in Connect. It's that fast. I want to go into a few that I've already created just to give you a sense of what we're doing here. And I've gone into the student view to show you what they would do. Now, I use these in my class a couple of different ways. One, I use them as actually part of my lecture. So we're going through a particular chapter. We actually open up a data visualization and we work through it together, and it counts for students' points. And are they paying attention when points are on the line? So everybody's following me, but it's a natural part of the lecture to help them understand a concept. I've also been using it this semester. I'll give them a visualization or a dashboard I'm about to show you, and I'll put them in groups. And you can put them in, I've done in groups in class, and of course on Zoom, it's very simple to do breakout rooms. And then I pop around to the breakout rooms to see what they're thinking of it. And it's great to talk to them about these visualizations and see how they're learning something in a different way than they are with just a column of numbers. But here you can see the visualization I just demonstrated to you for retained earnings. And all those questions I just quickly went over. Again, where do I want to start in this visualization with year 1? Where do I ultimately want to move to that is this cumulative amount over years? So they would just fill these amounts, like what is retained earnings in year 1? I'm just going to put $80. And when I'm ready, I just hit submit on this assignment. So very straightforward to assign. For students, I'm just going to hit this submit button. If students want, they can always click on this open up in a new tab, and then they can break it out, as a separate screen if they want. They can minimize it and bring it down by the questions. So very simple to deal with. Here you see the depreciation one that we just went over. And again, I'm going to work students through a series of questions. And we're going to start with, where do I want them? What's the basic idea? Well, the basic idea is which method is which in this left graph. Well, this is going to be double declining. That's declining. Which one is straight line depreciation? You ask students. How about the one that's going straight across the line? So, you can have fun with these in class. They get it. They visually see it. And then we're going to work up to this accumulated depreciation. Just a few more examples, then we'll kind of stop and see if there are any questions or feedback. In this particular case, we've hired a consulting firm to help us to predict our future uncollectible accounts. And so what the firm has done, here's a visual that over the past 5 years, this has been our percentage of uncollectible accounts by each age group. And so using those actual amounts, they forecasted a trend line of year 6 uncollectible accounts. Well, based on the age of actual accounts receivable and these estimates of future uncollectible by age group, now visually I can begin to see what's going on with my uncollectible accounts. And we're going to go down and do a homework problem that looks very similar to our previous ones, where we have students calculate uncollectible accounts and record it. But I want to start students off with the concept. What's the lowest percentage of uncollectible? What's the highest percentage of uncollectible? Again, working them through the idea that older accounts are more likely to not be collected. Just a few more. For example, here's one on leases, where what are we trying to teach students with leases? And again, what we've done is we've couched this in a very simple case where two office people are talking like, what's the advantage of an operating lease? Aren't they both on the balance sheet now? Does it really matter if I pick a finance lease or an operating lease? Well, the idea is that an operating lease creates a straight line depreciation expense. They can visually see it. How is it straight line? Interest expense is declining while amortization expense is increasing. So they can visually see that concept. That's not true with the finance lease. And so we're going to go through that series of questions again to start the conversation, get their eyes fixed on the basics, and then ultimately build. Other things being equal, the advantage of a lease being classified as an operating rather than financing is, and we move to that. And then again, another one on deferred taxes. I think you'll get the idea that we have them from the very beginning chapters to the most advanced chapters. And we've taken a concept and we've said, okay, we've got text over it. We've got videos over it. We've got SmartBook over it. We've got brief exercises, problems. We've got cases. What's another way to give the instructor flexibility and a student build their skills? Well, how about visualizations? Now, I'm going to pause there. We've kind of dumped a lot of information out on you. My next feature is going to be dashboards. But for the moment, let's just pause and see, Lauren, if there are any questions or give people a breather to respond to the poll.
Hey, Wayne. So the poll is open. We hope all of our attendees will give us a quick answer. And in the meantime, we do have a number of questions that have come in. So let's start with our first question. Our attendee says it's great to learn how other professors are integrating data analytics into their lecture. Wayne, would you give us an example to illustrate how you would encourage students' participation in that data analytics activity during lecture time?
Yeah, so one thing I said, for example, I'll use it for a very small amount. You can call it homework, you can call it attendance points, but you throw 2 points. I have 1,000 points available in my class, and I'll go over a visualization. It's worth 2 points. And I'll say, okay, we're going to do this together to continue learning a concept. By the way, we're going to go over 3 or 4 or 5 of these visualizations over this block of material, and some of them will be on the exam. You can put data visualizations on your exam. They're all paying attention, and it's fun. They don't really always put it together that I'm an author and that I created these visualizations. So I'll say, so what do you think? Did this help you? Oh, now I get what you're saying. Retained earnings is this cumulative amount. I see the picture of it. So I've used it as lecture. I use it as group assignments, and the dashboards I'm about to show you, I think those are really good group assignments, and it's fun to just kind of listen in as they learn to pick the pieces of information off of the visual.
Thanks, Wayne. We had another question come in from an attendee asking if there are different difficulty levels for each of the data analytics assignment types you're walking through today.
So we don't necessarily have like easy, medium, hard. It's really more about what is a bigger concept in a chapter. What is a visual to get students started down that road? So for example, some students really struggle with the concept of deferred taxes. What does that mean? Maker's depreciation versus straight line depreciation. So you could call that a higher level concept. So we've created a visual to try to address it. We also have a very basic one over how assets equal liabilities plus equity in that opening review chapter. So it's simpler for the simple concepts, and it's more advanced for the more advanced concepts.
Thanks, Wayne. So we also had a comment come in from our audience referencing the instructor and student instructional videos for some of our Tableau assignments that I think we're going to look at in a little bit. And just to mention that they are incredibly helpful, that students with no Tableau background can easily complete them without asking for help. And I thought I would share that with you guys because I think it's wonderful feedback. We did also have another question come in. Are the questions under data visualization continuous questions across chapters, or are they standalone questions?
They are standalone for that chapter's concept. So to the extent any concept in our book is cumulative, meaning you had to know prior chapters, it could in that sense be, but they are not like we have a target continuing case or something. But
Wonderful.
these are standalone to that chapter's concepts.
Thanks, Wayne. Now, on a different topic, we did have a quick question come in asking how the SmartBook component of Connect encourages students to read their textbook more. This attendee mentions that they don't see their students reading the textbook like they should, which I can say we get that feedback all the time, which is really the catalyst for offering an adaptive learning component like SmartBook in Connect. We won't be focusing on that too much in today's webinar, but short answer being that the adaptive component of creating a SmartBook assignment is really a sneaky way for instructors to actually assign reading. So if your students do not currently read the textbook and maybe they're jumping straight into their homework and struggling, creating SmartBook assignments is a great way for you to simply choose the amount of time that you want students to spend on a reading assignment, choose the core objectives you want to focus on most, and then ultimately SmartBook will adapt to each individual student by offering them questions throughout their reading that will ultimately adapt their focus to what they as individuals need to learn most. So I hope that that's a quick answer for that question that came in. And with that, I'm going to pass things back over to you, Wayne and Jen.
Okay, and I'm going to one more quick topic because I want to save plenty of time for applying Tableau and our new feature, this integrated Excel. I think you're really going to like. So also within Connect, you don't have to leave Connect to do this, are the Tableau Dashboard activities. So we're going to step it up from the visualization. It's still a visual, but now we're going to ask the student, the only way you're going to get the right answer as a student is to interact with your dashboard. You can't just look at it. You have to be actively involved with your dashboard. So I'm really excited about these. And I've been testing these in my class all fall. And I just had a student work through one, and I'll show you several examples. And so I asked the student, again, they don't really think of me as an author. They just think of me as their instructor. I said, so what do you think of this dashboard? And they said, you know, I like the dashboard because it made me think of multiple pieces of information being presented in front of me. And I had to think about those pieces and which one I needed to extract to get the right answer, as opposed to memorizing some formula and plugging it in cells. So it was really good feedback that it took students to that higher level of thinking. So let me explain to you what we're going to do with these. But one key thing was with all of these is it couldn't just be more busy work for students. It couldn't be a dashboard just for the sake of it being a dashboard. It had to be a dashboard that made students think more deeply about accounting and what the concept is and how do I extract information from this live dashboard. So let me show you a few of the things that we've done. I'll go back into that. And again, too many of these to demonstrate all of them today. So let me just give you a sample. And again, I'm going to go in through the student view so you can see what a student would see. And again, you would assign these the same as any brief exercise. So again, this one's going to be a real simple one just to kind of, I like this one because it convinces all the students that accounting data is relevant to them. And so here's a real simple scenario where the companies are asked to look at Nike and Under Armour and answer a few basic questions. What company has a greater increase in stock price? What company shows a more favorable profitability over the period? So what students will come up here and do is they say, okay, I've got Nike and I've got Under Armour. Here I see stock price. Well, it's pretty obvious that Nike's had the bigger stock price, and I can either visually see it or interact. Now, what does profitability mean? I have to know which of these asset, liability, revenue, or net income. Well, visually, it's quite obvious Nike's been more profitable over this period. So I see a correlation between stock price and net income. And then I'll just kind of speed up to more of this. Now we have to look at Domino's and Papa John's. And we've got to answer some questions about Domino's. Which ones had the greater increase in stock price? Stock prices always motivate students to pay, I think, a little more attention. Which company has the better trend in sales of products and services? Well, what they do is they have to come up here and they have to select Domino's Pizza, and they've got to select Papa John's. And that's going to repopulate the dashboard. And I'm actually done with Nike and Under Armour, so I can take them off the dashboard. And so it's pretty clear here that Domino's has had the better stock price, sales of products and services. Domino's is doing better. And then what is Domino's products and services in 2020? Well, I'm going to mouse over 2020 and I see it's $4.117 million. And the next one is going to go through a same analysis for Microsoft and IBM. So I need to come up here. I need to change my dashboard. I need to interact with it. And this particular question is going to, again, what's the stock price and which company is, it talks about their assets, liabilities, and then ultimately they're going to have to calculate stockholders' equity. So very simple dashboard. The purpose of this one is to demonstrate to students real company value is, we can see it through a stock price, but that correlates with the information I'm about to teach you guys. I'm about to teach you what net income, revenues, assets, liabilities. So what I'm teaching you has real relevance, and you can see it through the dashboard. Let me go through just a few more at a very fast pace to give you an idea. This particular case is on total accounts receivable, but you can also see it by age category, or you could see the uncollectible percentage by age category. Or if you wanted to look at the subsidiary ledger, you can see, for example, here's the not yet due category, $109,704. Well, here is all of those individual customers. So we're going to have students come down here and do a problem that looks very familiar to one that you've assigned. It says, calculate uncollectible accounts. Do it by age category. And again, I'm not going to mess with calculating that for you right now, but as students enter the amount, you can see that it's going to auto populate. It's going to just sum it up once they've calculated it. Then they'll come and record the adjusting entry, something we always ask them to do. Show me what it's like on the balance sheet. Show me what it looks like on the income statement. But then there's always one more question on every dashboard that makes students not just mouse over, but I have to interact with it. So what do I have to interact with here? Well, question 5 says, for the accounts that are over 60 days past due, what customer owes the most and by how much? So I can come up here. So here's the accounts that are over 60 days, and you can see it's going to filter those in. And so it's real simple. Which customer owes me the most? Well, I just mouse over the biggest bar. So as a student, I've had to visually see, here's my receivables by age category, here's my uncollectibles, and I can see uncollectible goes up the older they get, and I have a subsidiary ledger. Similar idea with, again, I keep saying I'm going to go fast, and I am going to be, make sure we're finished here. We've got a property, plant, and equipment, building, here's subcategories. Where's depreciation for land? Well, we don't depreciate land. Question 5, what asset is nearest the end of its useful life? So as students go through this, they can kind of pop open the various ones. The question that's kind of a bigger question that we haven't asked in the past, a lot of these questions are typical, but there's got to be one more to make this dashboard push that higher level learning. Which one of these pieces of equipment do you think needs replaced today? Which one's the closest to the end of its useful life? Well, it's the one with cost closest to accumulated depreciation. And you can go through multiple of these. Again, we're just building concepts. Here's a cash flow one. Students are going to calculate different cash flows by selecting. They also have to pick. The CFO is worried about ghost employees and fictitious payments. How are we going to use cash flow data to see if we're actually paying fictitious employees? All of these are live dashboards that we're going to change the installment note based on interest rates, number of payments. I think you're getting the idea here that we're going to ask students questions, and the only way they're going to get the right answer is to interact with the dashboard to get to some higher level of learning. So with that said, I need to probably put a break there because I do know we have two other features I want to get to. So Lauren, lots to show. You can see we could take a whole hour on any of these features, but we need to move on probably.
Yes, we could. We did have a couple questions come in. I thought one of the questions that, if we get this quite often, it would be a great question for you and Jen both to address, is really around if there's this idea of incorporating these data analytics assignments into a course. The assumption is you have to give up covering other content. And I know, Wayne, you and I have talked a lot about this, but I'd love to share your thoughts on kind of that statement.
Yeah, no, the great thing is, like, let's say you gave 6 homework problems. I'm just pulling a number out of the air. The great thing is a lot of what we're showing you, the visualizations and dashboards here, instead of those 6, you pick 5 plus 1 of these, because these are essentially the same problem, except it's adding it in a different light, in a visual light, or in a dashboard interactive, but it also has the advantage of adding a new higher level of learning. So it's okay to give up one of those 6 because you're essentially replacing it and just moving up, but you're not adding new content to the course.
Thanks, Wayne. Jen, any thoughts to add to that?
So I was gonna, I'll talk a little bit about it when I talk about the applying Tableau cases. That's what we use here. So when I assign an applying Tableau case, it's not something that they can do in class, only because I have them do it outside of class so they have time to manipulate the data within Tableau. But then they come to class and I use that as a springboard for our in-class discussion. So I don't think it replaces something. I think it just adds to our discussion.
Fantastic. All right. And this is a great question that has come in, and we have an attendee asking, based on the presentation, it seems to this attendee that Tableau assignments are for students to learn how to read and use and manipulate dashboards, but not to create a dashboard. Is this correct? And I thought, well, you're reading our minds, because that's what we're going to talk about next.
That was good timing. So we'll hand it over to Jen.
Okay.
All right, Jen, give me just one moment to hand you presenting privileges. All right, there you go. You are officially our presenter.
Okay. All right, let me share the correct screen. All right, so like I said, what I use here is the applying Tableau cases. And so the reason why we use it here is because our students have typically heard of Tableau and heard that it is a great data analytics tool, but just haven't used it yet. So it just makes sense for us to give them an opportunity to manipulate and analyze data. So I'm going to start this by saying that prior to us adopting these Tableau cases a few years ago, I had very little experience using Tableau myself. So I was a little nervous, but once we started using the Tableau cases here with Spiceland, I was just reassured, because everything that your students need to use this is right in the Connect platform, and I'm going to show you how to navigate this. So for the applying Tableau cases, students do need to have access to the Tableau software. So some students at our school use it in the computer labs, but if students want to put it on their machine, they can do so. And if you go to your Instructor Resources, and I'll show you really quick, in the Data Analytics Resources, of course it's going to not cooperate right now. There we go. Maybe. I'm having a little trouble with technology. So anyway, so if you open up the Instructor Resources, the Data Analytics Resources tab, there is a Word document in there that is entitled Getting Started with Tableau. It's not going to pull up, so I'm just going to stop. What it is that Word document provides exact instructions on how to, for students and instructors to go to the Tableau website and get a free 1-year renewable license for the software. The license, it says it takes 5 to 7 days to actually get the license, but it also offers a 14-day free trial period. So if you need it right away, you can go ahead and start using it immediately. I just went ahead and downloaded the brand new Tableau software. It only took about 24 hours to get the license. So 5 to 7 days is definitely a conservative estimate. Okay, so like Wayne illustrated, adding the applying Tableau cases is very similar to just adding a regular assignment. So I'm not going to go through that since he already did that. But I do have it loaded on my, my site already. And so just like Wayne, I'm going to go ahead and go into student assignment view so you can see what the students see, and you can see how easy it is for students to navigate these assignments. So once they go into the assignment, the first thing that they'll see is a video that walks them through the instructions on how to go through this particular problem. So this is the Chapter 1 assignment, which covers the difference between net income and operating cash flows. So they'll see an instructional video, and if they continue to keep scrolling, they will find the Excel workbook that they need to actually upload into Tableau, as well as written instructions for Tableau and how to navigate and manipulate the data. And at the very bottom, you can see what's required. So this particular problem has 4 requirements. The first 2 talk about the 2 companies that they're going to be analyzing, looking at which company reports a huge loss on its income statement, and then also figuring out, once you identify that company, going and finding their for their operating cash flows for that same period. And the second 2 questions ask about the percentage change in operating cash flows and net income. So I'm going to focus on the first 2 questions, and I'm going to actually illustrate what it looks like to manipulate the data within Tableau. Okay, so I have already, let's see if I can switch over. Can you all see the Tableau dashboard now? Does it look okay? Okay. So now I opened up Tableau, and again, they would do this with the step-by-step instructions. So the first thing it would tell them to do is to open up Excel. And so it would tell them just click on opening Excel. I already have the Excel document on my desktop, which they would have downloaded directly from the assignment. And so when they open up, it would open up like this. And they can see that this data file is a pretty large data file that would be hard for them to analyze without doing something with it to manipulate the data and make it easier for them to visualize what's going on. So the instructions then would tell them exactly what to do. Manipulating data in Tableau is very easy. It really involves dragging variable names into various places. And again, the instructions tell you exactly what to do. So here you'd click, it would tell you, go ahead and click on sheet 1 and then start pulling over account name. And you would select exactly what you want to analyze. So for this first question, it would tell you to go ahead and find net cash flows from operating activities because that's the first thing you want to analyze. And we're going to click OK. All right, and then it wants you to look at this by store, and then we're also going to get some measure names up here, and then we'll get some measure values up in rows. And again, all of this is in the instructions, and then voila. I mean, just easily by dragging over some variable names into rows and columns, you already see a nice graph depiction. And then if they follow the step-by-step instructions, it will tell them to remove a column that they don't need. It would tell them to do a side-by-side bar chart to make it a little easier to visualize and get some color on here so it's easier to tell what columns go where. The instructions say, okay, we'll add some data labels so it's easy to identify the numbers. So we'll go ahead and click that data label. Okay. And then there's our data labels, and we'll give this sheet a name just so I'm about to duplicate it, so I don't want to get confused. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and call this net operating cash flows. Okay. All right. Now, the best thing about this is part 2 says go ahead and do the same thing for net income, but this is really easy in Tableau. All right, so you can just go ahead and come down here to sheet 1, if my mouse is going to cooperate. And it says, okay, well, Tableau is great because you can just duplicate the sheet. Now I'm on a copy of it, and all I have to do is come up here and tell Tableau, I don't really want to, oh, sorry, that's not we go. Okay, I don't really want to go ahead and look at operating cash flow anymore. Instead, I'm going to change from operating cash flow, and I want to look at net income and loss instead. And just like that, I have the other graph that I want to see. So I'm going to label this net income loss. And so for two separate companies, I have a graph of net income or loss, and on the other sheet, I have their net operating cash flows. And from this visualization, your students can easily now answer the first 2 questions that they've been asked. So again, the first question happened to be, what company experienced a net loss during the period under review? And you can easily visually see that Discount Goods in 2014 had a loss of $14,542. And then you can, now that you've identified the loss and the year, it says in that same year what was operating cash flows. And so you can go back to sheet 1 and then easily pick out for that same year, Discount Goods had positive operating cash flows of $19,729. And they would input that directly into Connect. Connect is auto-graded, and so my students get feedback on this case immediately on the way that they do the analysis. So when they come into class, we can refer to this analysis, and I can open it up to talk about the differences between net income and operating cash flow, and that actually and why they might be different. And that can also provide a preview into the discussion we're going to have the next week about the statement of cash flows and the reconciliation of net income to net operating cash flows. And that's how I use this in class. So they do all of the analysis and the Tableau case outside of class, and they come in and we have a springboard for a discussion. So again, for this case, there were a couple other questions that they would have to answer, but hopefully I've demonstrated enough for you to get a feel for how the applying Tableau cases look and how user-friendly they are. And again, just as a reminder, when I started using this case, I was completely a newbie to the Tableau cases, so do not be fooled by my ability to go in and show this to you relatively quickly. I was certainly relying on the Connect resources to do this when I first started. So I'm happy to answer any questions about this, but I definitely wanted to show you the ease of use of Tableau. So I'm going to stop sharing.
Thanks so much, Jen. We did actually have a question that was dropped into the Q&A that I thought would be a great question to kind of address with you. This is from an attendee that said, you know, what's the value of giving students the exact step-by-step instructions? Isn't that giving them the answer? And I know Becky on our team jumped in and talked about wanting this portion to be formative as they're learning Tableau. But do you have any additional thoughts to add?
Yeah, so I think it does not give them the instructions of how to solve and how to interpret the visualization. What it does is it helps them to manipulate the data within Tableau. If they've never seen Tableau before, or for instructors that have never used Tableau, I think it provides a way to encourage students and instructors to actually start using this in class. I know that if the instructors had not been there when I first started using it, I probably would not have integrated this into my class. And so that's where I think the true benefit is.
Thanks, Jen.
Mhm.
And just a quick note for me as a bystander, I had never built a dashboard before myself, and I walked through this activity as a student a couple months ago, and it literally took me 7 minutes from start to finish to create that dashboard. And I didn't have any issues. Those explainer bullets that give you the step-by-step instructions are so clear and concise. And I was very appreciative of that, because even just stepping into the student's shoes for a moment, it built my confidence right after I was done completing my dashboard, because I did it and it wasn't that difficult. And then it allowed me to really focus my attention on the analysis of that data. And that was my big takeaway, was just that confidence builder, and then the hands-on experience with data analytics software. All right, so I am actually going to go ahead and jump in now, and we are going to move on very quickly, because we only have 5 minutes left, to talk about Excel offerings, and a really exciting new Excel offering that will be available with this next new edition. So give me a moment to go ahead and share my screen. Jen, I'm stealing presenter privileges back from you. All right. So we'll go ahead and jump in. Let's see here. All right. So we are incredibly excited to announce that we have a new partnership with Microsoft Excel, and we are launching this with the next edition. Some of you might already have some experience with this new partnership with some of our solutions that just recently published. But we are really empowering our platform and the live iteration of Microsoft Excel to pair together. Just to give some groundwork for those of you maybe who are not as familiar with Connect or are previous users, our existing Excel offerings have typically focused on our Excel simulations, where we've created a completely simulated environment in our platform that looks like Excel and offers some learning aids to students for support. And then also potentially applying Excel problems that take students outside of Connect to work in an Excel software environment, and then back into Connect to submit their answers for auto grading. So uploading and downloading spreadsheets. Some of you might be familiar with this. But now, based on some of the feedback that we've been receiving from instructors over the past few years, we have really been focusing on the need to make sure that students walk away from programs with Excel skills, and that students have the ability to use Excel to build their analytics and decision-making skills. We've also been focusing on a way to ensure that we're giving all students equitable access to real-world applications like Microsoft Excel, and making it easier and less time-consuming for faculty to incorporate Excel into your courses. So what that looks like is our new fused partnership with Microsoft, where we are seamlessly integrating the live web-based Excel into our Connect platform in the form of what we call our integrated Excel assignments. So these integrated Excel assignments, again, are a seamless integration. It is a live working version of real Excel inside Connect. And as instructors, you are going to have the ability to choose your own auto grading preferred solutions. So you can choose to grade by formula accuracy only, or either formula and solution value. So I'm actually going to dive right into what this looks like to give you guys a really quick tour. So we're going to look at this from the student experience. If you're familiar with Connect, students will open up an assignment just like they always do. And they'll get some basic information on the assignment, click continue, and then immediately in a new tab, they open up their integrated Excel assignment. And you will notice that right out of the gate, we give them some information on the grading policy that you as an instructor have chosen for this assignment. And we will mention this a couple of times throughout a student's experience in the assignment, because we want to make sure that because you are selecting your own grading policy from those two options, that we're reflecting that and communicating that with students. So students will click down and out of that pop-up alert, and then they are immediately within their integrated Excel assignment. You can see this is the live working version of web-based Excel. So students will have access to everything in Excel that they would normally have access to in the workplace. So they even have access to all of the help features of Microsoft Excel, and ultimately their exercise is embedded within their spreadsheet. You'll notice some of these shaded cells. These are the graded cells that ultimately our system will grade. And students also have an area within this spreadsheet called their scratch pad to use as a non-graded safe workspace. So this is an area where students can practice formulas before entering them into their graded assigned cells. And what's neat about this little workspace is that any work students do in this safe scratch pad will actually be saved within their assignment. So if you have a student who's struggling and they've done some work in this area, you could actually view it and work with them to figure out where maybe an issue is presenting itself. But ultimately, we are asking students to enter their answers into these shaded cells. And once they've started entering any content into these graded cells, they can utilize one of our learning aids for checking their answers called Check My Work. Once students click Open Check My Work, it's going to give them a little bit of information that tells them if they're on the right path to success or if they potentially are encountering some issues. So in this instance, it's telling me that my answer is not complete, and that is because based on the grading policy that my instructor has set up for this particular assignment, I actually am not following that grading policy. So my answer is not complete yet. Students, after checking out of that learning aid, can continue working and ultimately enter in the answers that they've deemed correct into these graded cells. Now, if I'm a student and I'm working in my integrated Excel assignment, and let's say I want to go back to my main Connect page because maybe I want to read my ebook, I can do so. I can click open that page again. But if I do that, I am going to get a big notification telling me that I need to save my work because we recognize that when we're asking students to utilize Excel, sometimes they'll do some work and need to exit out and then come back in. We want to make sure that they're always saving their work. And once they do, they're getting another reminder about that auto grading policy that you have selected because we want them to be successful. So once I am complete in my assignment, I can go ahead and submit it. And then ultimately, we also offer instructors the ability to allow students to view results. So this is an instructor-owned setting. So if you do allow for this, as a student, I can actually go in and see what my grade is. And then I can open up the assignment and I can toggle back and forth between my answers to this particular assignment and the correct answers to this assignment. So right now, I'm looking at my answers, and you can see here where I'm getting the correct answers versus where I'm not. And if I hover over these gray tabs, it will show me exactly what my answer was. In this case, here's the formula I entered. Now I can also then toggle over to see the correct answers. And this is ultimately where we will give students the correct answers or solutions or formulas. And here you'll notice in particular this graded cell, we're giving students the answer as a formula, and then underneath it, you'll also note that there's an additional common alternative formula. We recognize that answer tolerance when working in Excel is hugely important, so we have really worked with Microsoft to ensure that we're accepting of different iterations of answers that should be considered correct. So you will see those common alternative answers noted sometimes in these assignments. So that is our newest partnership with Microsoft. And I know that was very quick, but we're up against time. So I just wanted to make sure that you all are aware of this incredible new innovation that we're so excited about. And with that, I'm just double checking all of the Q&As that have come in. And it looks like we have answered everyone's questions. And it does look like we have one last question that has come in asking when this new edition and the Connect course is going to be available. So the new edition textbook is publishing in January, a great way to start off the new year. And the Connect course will be live in early spring for anyone who's looking to do a review and also to potentially build out a course. For those of you who aren't aware, we also have a partnership with the Online Learning Consortium, and we create pre-built, pre-populated courses across McGraw-Hill that align with the OLC standards for online learning. So for any of those of you that do teach in an online environment, we offer that. And our team at McGraw-Hill is here to support you in any of your needs as you are moving forward with review processes. If you're looking for any types of training, if you have questions for our authors, we are all here to support you. And I'm going to ask Becky to potentially drop my email address into the chat in case any of you have immediate follow-up questions. You can email me and I will gladly respond. And we just wanted to take a last moment to say thank you so much to Wayne and Jen for giving us your time today in this presentation. And just a final shout out and welcome to Jen. Welcome to the McGraw-Hill author family. We're so excited to have you, and we're appreciative of all that you both do. With that, everyone, have an incredible weekend. And please, again, my email is in the chat. Reach out if you need anything at all. Thanks, everyone.